Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. I'm Doug TenNapel. Thank you guys for watching. I'm a video game artist. I'm a comic book creator, and I had my free speech questioned all the way back in 2008, probably around 2005. This is about a social contagion, a cult-like mind virus called the Democrat Party. And we're going to talk about some of the tactics they use. Specifically, here's Joe Rogan. This involves the COVID vaccine, but we'll show you later how it even has to do with the messaging around Christmas, how the CIA tried to stop it.
Do you think that someone sat in a room and that people discussed the best ways to get people to comply?
Oh, yes. I would bet my career, because it was executed following textbook protocol. One thing, and you can spot whether or not you're standing in the middle of a psyop. That one thing is, if the opinion that's coming out needs people to be silenced, it's a psyop. There are psychological operations in play.
So just look for that sign. Anytime someone's trying to silence you. If I say, if you come out with any opinion, it could be political, it can be religious, it could be philosophical. In the case of vaccines, it could be medical. In the case of evolution, it could be a different theory of the science. Look, if someone comes to you and says, you can't get tenure, you can't have a job, it's anything but an argument. If they try and cut off your microphone, which happens a lot on social media, if they do anything but argue with you and say, your idea is so false, here's a counter argument coming out of my mouth. That's how we discuss things. As soon as it becomes trying to stop your voice, according to this Joe Rogan guest, it's a psyop.
If you can't question it, if you're supposed to just go along, it's a psyop.
And there were Harvard doctors kicked off of the internet or kicked off of Twitter for this stuff.
And it was openly discussed in emails. They talked about the strategy of silencing these people. And then you had the actual government itself contacting Twitter, trying to get people removed, which is wild.
Yeah, and didn't you have Mark Zuckerberg on? He talked about
he talked about Facebook doing it, about the FBI contacting them. My hope is that...
And because of Facebook's sheer size is so big, and YouTube's size is so big, and Twitter's size is so big, when they came down and started silencing dissent, it became the largest example of government censorship in the history of the planet, just because social media is the largest communication form of widespread communication, where we can talk to billions and billions of people at once right now. Therefore, if you go in and you censor it, that becomes a demonstration of the greatest form of censorship that has ever been performed in our country's history. Now, let's talk about how are these messages dispersed, because this is getting funny now. This one catches Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren being little Borg copy machine robots in this discussion. Watch how they both say the exact same thing against Trump.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of groceries, gas, housing, eggs, of essentials, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing.
Who wrote this dialogue for them? I worked in children's animated television for Nickelodeon and for Warner Brothers, and someone writes dialogue and then an actor speaks it. So one way that you know that you're looking at actors and not politicians is when they're Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer are saying the exact same content in the exact same order. You know that the politician is particularly a puppet or particularly empty-headed when they can't even add their own innovation to the text given to them by a party or by George Soros, whoever's paying them to say this. They can't add anything to shake it up, so it doesn't even sound different from someone else reading the exact same script. If someone gave me a script and said, Doug, here, read this thing. This is pro-Republican Party propaganda. And if I just read the Republican Party, I'd at least innovate and put it in my own voice. Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer don't even have a voice. They've only been puppeting words from the beginning.
Who sakes to lower prices for you? Instead, he's pardoned violent criminals who savagely beat police officers on January.
They even use the same video clips as examples.
January
That's
6th.
an effing
He's letting
disgrace.
Elon
He's
Musk
letting
take a
Elon Musk take a chainsaw
literally,
to vital government programs.
Oh, the chainsaw branding. Like we saw that when media rolled that one out. We're going to get Elon Musk on the chainsaw. Really? Is a chainsaw appropriate? Really? Do we have to use a chainsaw? This thing even got all the way down to right-wing Republican media, like commentary media, going like, oh, the chainsaw. What does the chainsaw mean? This is all, remember, if they're trying to manipulate you with all this stuff, there's a psyop going on by someone.
Programs, and then even worse, giving him access to Americans' most sensitive data, Social Security numbers, tax returns, healthcare bills. He's fired thousands of essential workers, people who help our veterans get their benefits, people fighting Ebola in Africa so it doesn't come here. He's frozen funding for vital programs that so many American families need: cancer research, education funding, payments to family farmers, and so much worse.
Okay, I've made my point, but not quite. Look at this. Gets even better. This time we're going to be joined with Mark Kelly and Tim Kaine, because it wasn't just Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, the dialogue to read from the Antichrist.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true.
Okay, there it is. That ain't true. Upper right, that's Cory Booker. Lower left, Mark Kelly from Arizona. Lower right, Tim Kaine, your old vice president. They're all empty heads. They have nothing original to say, so they just all read from the same script. Watch this.
That's what you just heard. Since day one, Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse. Prices of groceries, gas, eggs, of essentials. It's not getting better. It's getting...
My favorite, look at Cory Booker up there with a bug-eyed. He's supposed to be just some kind of radical, you know, an original thinker, a unique voice, and they're reading from a script. Lower left, Mark Kelly, astronaut, you know, pilot. He's a radical. He's a John McCain, red dust maverick from Arizona, repeating the exact same puppet points. They're all interchangeable. Tim Kaine, Schumer, Elizabeth. You know, you have 5 people here saying the same thing. That means all 5 of them can be replaced with just one person. You really only need one person, but they put on different puppet heads. Cory Booker, he's a African-American. He's a black man. Let's hear from the black voice of America, Cory Booker. And he's saying the exact same thing as Chuck Schumer, the Jewish voice, or Elizabeth Warren, the Native American, Mark Kelly, the independent white working class, and Tim Kaine from the Northwest Family District. You know, this is all, it's a giant puppet show. They're all saying the same thing. It's a psyop.
Worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing to lower costs for you. Instead, he's part of violent.
So let's go to another thing I found, which is the CIA is manipulating free speech. Watch this.
Why Christians? I remember the Soviet Union made a statement that we could control all of our entire population except the Christians.
Oh, the Soviet Union. You mean Putin? Putin was threatened by the Christians. I just want to ask the Democrats, why do the Democrats have the same playbook as Putin? To shame Christians, to manipulate Christians, to keep Christians from being able to come on these social media platforms and talking about our pro-life stance or gay marriage or Christ being the only way or a condemnation of Islam, whatever we want to say. Why are the same left-wing Democrats doing the same thing as Russia's Putin, a communist that now they say, you know, they want to fight lots of bullets against Ukraine, but they don't want to help the church. By the way, Ukraine also, we did a video on it yesterday, how Ukraine is oppressing the Orthodox Church within their own territory.
And they had to put them in prison and in gulags. And I remember in 1994 when I was in the CIA, we were ordered into a conference room. We all filed in. There's about 30 of us. And our division chief starts off by saying, now don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger. This comes down from the director of the CIA.
I'm just, as they said in the Nuremberg trials, I'm just following orders. Don't come after me. We are just following orders.
You can no longer say Merry Christmas in any CI office space, you cannot have a manger scene on your desk or on your door, or you will face administrative penalties.
They always work through the human resources too. Why Christians? Why Christmas? Remember, Bill O'Reilly started talking about the war on Christmas, and all the Democrats fought back. All my atheist friends go, there's no war on Christmas. You and your made-up war on Christmas. You're free to say Merry Christmas. The war is in your head. This guy's talking about, why did the CIA walk out and say, this is back in the 90s. Why did they say, you cannot say Merry Christmas or have a manger scene sitting on your desk? That's a little idol or a little scene, a little scenario on your desk. You can't have a manger scene. It's too offensive. That's the state. By the way, that's a state religious statement preventing the free expression thereof. We didn't start the fight. Christians didn't start the war. We didn't start the war on marriage either. We just said, look, marriage is a man and a woman. And someone else came in and started attacking us going, no, you're a homophobe because you believe that. You're a homophobe. You're a racist. You're destroying the environment. You're destroying the environment. And now they're saying, when I push back and say, hey, Merry Christmas, they go, you're going to lose your job. You have to face the administration. You guys started the war. Now, we might finish it because Christians will be here long after your atheistic regime is burned up in glory. Long after everything that is a lie and everything that is false will burn. Only what is godly and God himself and Jesus himself and the Christian family will remain. Everything else burns. That's why Christians are reliably something that the state must control and must oppress. It's why they have to go after our pro-lifers and spy on them with the FBI, because we will never give up our ideology for a government mandate. The government can come and demand you do something. We're just not going to do it. Watch this.
And the sad part was only two of us, our jaws dropped. Like, what?
Yeah, only two Christians, by the way, out of a whole office, jaw dropped. Everyone else was fine. They went along with it. That's because America is dead if you don't support the Christians, if you don't defend them, defend free speech. I defend even the free speech of an atheist, okay? You have free speech. Look, and then they're going to go and of course they won't protect me. They'll let me be thrown under the bus, let me lose my job. That's just our job, suffer and be ground up into hamburger. But notice he said only two people's jaws drop. I would bet there's other Christians in the office that did nothing and remained silent. And that's because you're no good to the faith if you sit there and be quiet and have your manners and keep to yourself and practice what is called relativism or cultural relativism, where you just do no harm and just don't say anything and go along to get along. Because, or as Thomas, they always quote St. Francis of Assisi going, sometimes a Christian should preach with words also instead of just works. Meaning keep your mouth shut and don't preach. And I say preach with your words, preach often, preach all the time, free speech, debate me down in the comments. Feel free to disagree with me. And you watch my response. See if my response is, oh yeah, I'll delete your microphone. I'll I'll ban you from the channel. I'll keep you from commenting here. You keep it respectful. I've always welcomed disagreement in my life. Always.
And the CI was actively against Christians, and they used DEI as a method to suppress them. And I remember it was Christmas Eve, and I walked out. I thought about this, prayed about this overnight, and I said, oh, no, you don't. So I walked out on New Year's Eve, and I turned around to everybody, and I said, good night, and by the way, Merry Christmas. I'm like, there is a line you don't cross. Well, there was an outrage from the CII populace, and as evil people always do, when they got resistance, they backed off and said, well, never mind,
Yeah, resist the devil, and he will flee. You don't have to go fight him hand to hand. You don't have to pull out a sword. You don't have to even win the argument. Just resist the devil and he will flee. These people are ticks and cowards, the people that come after Christians. People that say, don't say Merry Christmas, your first response should be Merry Christmas.
But it has been Christianity, because the Christians are the only ones that will not answer to tyranny. We believe in God and a higher power, and we will not be manipulated by a tyrannical regime. And that's why Christians are despised around the world, including in this previous administration. My goodness. And going back to Obama, how they attacked
Christians. Yeah, this goes all the way back to Obama. They started it. These pagans. Sorry, not going to win. My confidence, the reason why I don't despair, and there's no such thing as being black-pilled, as showing despair as a Christian, or apathy. You don't give up. Give up is not in our vocabulary. It's why they have to destroy destroy us. And good luck. You know when you can destroy me? When God gives you permission to destroy me. Until then, my confidence comes from him. You know, he has my days numbered, not you. You don't number my days. He decides things. And if he chooses to let me lose my job because of my mouth or because I stand for him, then it is my great pleasure to get to serve him in that way. I'm Doug in exile.